The Democrats are coming to take your guns. All of them. Every single one. But they can't do it outright, so they do it one small step at a time. Joe Biden once again comes out and says, there's no amendment that's absolute. Shut up, you idiot. The Democrats want to take away your guns while claiming that they're not going to, but they do it one small step at a time. They only want militarized police to have weapons, and they don't think you should have a right to defend yourself. Now, what do I mean by militarized when I talk about the police? I think a police force should be community-oriented. The police officers should know the people in their neighborhoods, and the leaders of these offices, be it the chief or the sheriff, should be elected. Instead, what we're getting is appointed political, high-ranking officers that don't care about you, don't care about your rights, and will break into your home and kill you. I know. Not every single cop, not every single department. This is why I'm trying to draw that distinction about what the Democrats want versus what we actually need. I think when it comes to a lot of conservatives, they view the police department as a small town or suburb police department, which very often are really good. I mean, that's what AOC said. She said she wants the police to function like they do in the suburbs. And I actually understand. I get what she's saying. The outright condemnation of police across the board, I'm not a big fan of. The problem is in big cities like LA or LA County, Chicago, New York, these cops don't know you. They don't care about you. They will lie to protect themselves and the state, and they will violate your rights without a thought. But let's talk about what happens when you have an overpowered state violating your rights. I want to talk to you about gun rights. I want to talk to you about Joe Biden. But the first thing I want to talk to you about is this story about a man who was fatally shot in an apartment because police were executing a no-knock warrant. The man was legally armed. The police killed him anyway. You know what's really funny? There's a video I have from CBS crying about ghost guns or, oh no, people can make guns in their own home. Yeah, the debate is over. Guns can be 3D printed or in many parts machined. It can happen in someone's backyard. They can do their own reels. It's always been the case to a certain degree you can make these kinds of weapons. But they're freaking out. My response to this, because CBS is like, and now people are outgunning police. And I'm like, good. I don't care. F the police, right? And I have people being like, I hope you're joking about F the police, Tim. Is that serious? After everything we saw these city cops do to people during the lockdowns, y'all are going to be defending them? No. I know. Hold on. There are a lot of good cops. In fact, where we are out here, met a couple of good ones, especially after we got swatted and went through all of that. These are good dudes. I'm not saying outright every single cop is bad. I'm not an idiot. I certainly think most cops are good. I think the problem is many cops will kill you if you're legally bearing arms because they don't want to take the risk. And that's an unfortunate reality. The story I like to tell, and I'm going to tell it again so you're going to hear it, was what I was told when I was buying my first gun in New Jersey. I had to file a bunch of paperwork, get my ID card to be able to purchase a gun. And then even then, it's like weird how the law works. I'm glad I got away from that state. But New Jersey is very close to other states. And where I lived, it was, you could drive 5 minutes and cross the bridge and you're in Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, you're allowed to have guns. It's relatively, the laws are pretty good. A woman who lived in Pennsylvania wanted to go to Atlantic City. She lived in the Philly area, I think, and it's like a 45-minute drive to Atlantic City to go gambling. She brought her concealed carry, which she was legally allowed to have. As soon as she crossed into New Jersey, she got pulled over for some reason, headlight or something. And she told the officer, as a good citizen does, that she had her concealed carry and just wanted him to know. And he arrested her and said it was a felony that she did that. Now, why would that officer want to ruin this woman's life? He could have just told her, ma'am, you need to turn around right now. I'm going to escort you back to the bridge, back to Pennsylvania. You need to leave that weapon at home. You are not allowed to have that here. Wouldn't that be the appropriate thing to do for an officer who's actually trying to keep our community safe? Or, in all honesty, if it were me, I'd be like, well, don't let anybody know, but as far as I'm concerned, you are upholding your Second Amendment rights that no one should be allowed to take away from you. Keep yourself safe, ma'am. But too many of these cops are spineless. Let me show you this story, and then we'll talk about Biden. Minneapolis police say an officer shot and killed a man holding a handgun while executing a search warrant at a downtown apartment building Wednesday morning. While officials have yet to release the man's name, well, we know all the details now. It's Amir Locke. Check this out. Let me show you what they said. Approximately 9 seconds into the entry, officers encountered a male who was armed with a handgun pointed in the direction of officers. At one point, shots were fired, and the adult male suspect was struck. Officers immediately provided emergency aid and carried the suspect down to the lobby to meet paramedics. These despicable and evil men in the police department lied. And now that we have the body camera footage, we know what really happened. They opened the door with a key. They immediately entered the room yelling, a cacophony of voices. You can't even tell what's happening. A man is sleeping under covers, under a blanket on the couch. They walk up screaming a cacophony of nonsense and kick the couch. And the dude sits up and he's holding an FN-57 handgun of some sort with his finger properly off the trigger. And within only a few seconds, they unload on the guy. Now, they had a no-knock warrant. Check out the latest developments here. First, we're learning police did not even request a no-knock warrant, but the St. Paul police, but the Minneapolis Police Department wanted one. We're learning he was not named in the warrants. So let me make this really, really clear for all of you. Just make sure everyone understands. I'm a reasonable guy. I'm a reasonable person. I like the police. I like the fact that we have police departments. I am grateful to the police that we have, especially like I mentioned with the swatting. It helps us when we want to make sure that there are legal protections for our safety. Now, I personally believe I also have a right to self-defense against anybody who would break into my home. But the point is, if somebody were to break in here, the last thing I would ever want to do is cause any harm to the person. That's right. I know there's a lot of people that say things like, make my day. No, don't make mine. I don't want to be involved in that. I don't want to go through a litigation. I don't want to have to defend myself. I don't want to have to justify any of this. But you do. You do. And in certain circumstances, it's reasonable. But often it's not. You know, someone breaks into my house. But the reality is we need to get to the bottom of how someone loses their life. Now, if I have to, I will defend myself and others if someone tries breaking in and we are legally armed. However, when the police come and they assume that liability and responsibility, I actually like that. I appreciate it. When the cops came here, when we got swatted, I was kind of pissed off that they entered when they were told not to because they knew it was a swatting. They came in anyway. That pisses me off. I can respect that they were risking their lives entering a building where they were concerned that someone may be violent and dangerous. But they knew it was likely a swatting. They come in my house anyway when they were told not to. I'm not a fan of that. I actually think they violated our rights, and I'm really, really pissed off about it. I ended up speaking with some other officers about a man who entered our property. It's crazy. After we got swatted, enters the property, then we get swatted again. And good cop. Good dude, and I appreciate his help. And he was like, you got to press charges on this, and we're going to investigate. So I'm like, glad to hear it. So I can respect it. I don't want to have to engage people in self-defense. I like that there are police who are willing to assume that responsibility, the liability, and that want to be there to protect you. The problem is, this means cops have to be held to a higher standard. This means they can't just kill people, and it means there should not be no-knock warrants. Here's the story. A black man who was fatally shot by Minneapolis police as they executed a search warrant in a homicide investigation was wrapped in a blanket on a couch when SWAT officers entered the apartment and displayed a handgun as they shot at him to show his hands. He was a 22-year-old Amir Locke. His family says he had a concealed carry license. He was minding his own business, sleeping on a couch. Some are even saying, and this could be speculative, that it wasn't even the right address. Possibly, I don't know, that could be leftist propaganda because they really just want to abolish police because they want to assume power. The body camera footage, it's going viral, man. They claim, look at this, the police said that he pointed a loaded gun in the direction of officers, and that was an outright lie. In the video, he's holding the weapon as he's sleeping. You're allowed to do that. The cops kick the couch. He sits up. He never brandishes or points the weapon. They kill him. They kill him. They killed him. They entered someone's property, a guy who legally had a gun. They killed him. I'm glad that they're investigating homicide. I don't like homicide. And there's a reality that it's not easy, right? We want cops to stop violent murderers, rapists, criminals, etc. Of course we do. And that means they have to use certain tactics, and people can often lose their lives. I don't think we should have no-knock warrants. I think they should have banged on the door. I think they should have said, come out with your hands up. And then if someone comes out pointing a gun or holding a weapon, they can be like, drop it. The police say, people are saying like, well, the police were in a dangerous situation. This guy could have shot them. That's what they're saying. The police made this a dangerous situation. The police are the ones who entered without warning to anybody, and a dude who was not named in the warrant, who was legally allowed to carry a gun and constitutionally was shot and killed. So when I tell you they're coming for your guns, I hope you understand. Now, I don't know how much I trust this story. I got to be honest, because they're once again pulling in these like Black Lives Matter lawyers to claim it was racist or whatever. Okay, we'll see. But based on the video I watched, even if this guy was a suspect, he's got a right to keep and bear arms, right? There was another video where there was a car accident, and the passenger in one of the vehicles had a gun on the dashboard. So he's walking towards the vehicle to get his stuff after the accident, and a cop yells at him to stop. The dude grabs his gun, the cop shoots him and says, "Why did you grab the gun, man?" Because you're allowed to own one. Because you're allowed to keep and bear arms in this country. And simply holding a weapon is not justification for anyone to shoot you. You want to be a cop, man? Do it with my blessing, with respect, because it is tough. But if I'm carrying my weapon legally, finger off the trigger, or I go to pick it up, you do not get to shoot me. I have a right to keep and bear arms. Any cop that's like, I got scared because he grabbed a weapon. So what if he grabbed a brick? So what if he had a lock in it, a padlock in his hand? Oh, you're going to throw it at you? You're going to shoot him for it? Sorry. And this means that there is a very serious risk to being a cop. But I'm sorry, you do not get the privilege of shooting someone who scares you unless they actually take action against you. And often that means the bad guys have an advantage. It's unfortunate, but true. I think about superheroes. Think about this. Superheroes. Batman won't kill the Joker. Now, why is that? I know it's not real life. I'm making a point about our culture and our writers. The people who wrote these comics had within them the idea that the hero could not cross that line. And sometimes you recognize you have to. And so there are many really amazing philosophical takes on these stories about heroes. And, I like DC Comics. I like Marvel Comics. And if you're not a fan, ignore the comic stuff and nerd stuff, but just understand this. Our depiction of superheroes was that they would always assume the risk, and the villains were the ones who would try to kill you. They wouldn't. Batman could have killed the Joker, but he doesn't. There's a storyline, a couple different versions, I think, in Justice, where Superman loses, his wife Lois and his kid, his unborn child. So he finally snaps and decides to kill the Joker, and does. Crosses the line and becomes an authoritarian, a despot. It's a brilliant storyline. It's amazing how these comics went from being one-dimensional to being particularly deep. Now, I don't think the real life is like comic books, but I certainly think that if you're a cop and you genuinely believe in protecting a community, and someone's holding a gun, you don't just shoot them because they're allowed to. If they raise that weapon at you and even point it at you, now they are directly threatening you, because you never point your gun at anything unless you intend to destroy it. And that means anyone who does has basically declared, I intend to destroy what lies before me. If that is you as a cop, then you shoot him. I would say, I'm glad you're safe, officer. Anyone who knows about guns knows you don't point it at people no matter what, unless you have to defend yourself or to defend others, or if you're at a range, you're pointing at something you're intending to hit. So if you're a cop, you see a guy on his couch and he's got a gun, you say, drop it. If he then points it at you, well, that's too bad. Now, in this instance, with this guy, Amir Locke, I don't think the cops could have been in the right in any circumstance. The guy's half asleep. He's asleep, actually. The cops are screaming. You wake up in your own home with your legal, your constitutionally protected gun, with bright lights in your face and people screaming. And what do? They pointed the guns at him, signaling to him, a guy who did nothing wrong, that the police intended to destroy him. Still, in this circumstance, he never aimed the gun at him. Think about that, all right? Because I can be a reasonable guy and say, look, I appreciate cops are out there trying to keep us safe. Not all cops, not all the time. And there's a lot of problems with the policing. And I think we need police reform for sure. But I don't blame these individuals, man. I think they're just trying to do their jobs and they're trying to balance it. People got to understand that when a cop shows up to a crime scene, he doesn't know you. He doesn't know them. He's trying to figure out what to do to de-escalate. Oftentimes, cops don't. Now, think about this world. This is what Biden wants, what the left wants. First of all, Biden's wrong. He was like, you can't own a cannon. You can literally own a cannon. You could buy a cannon right now. In fact, I don't think cannons were ever regulated. For one, because they're like old weapons, you know what I mean? But they want to take your guns away. Their argument is, oh, if this guy wasn't armed, then the cops wouldn't have shot him. And he would have got away just fine. The cops shouldn't have entered his apartment. So leftists, actual leftists are pro-gun. Liberals aren't. Explain this to me, liberals. All right, I'll tell you this. You know what? Any liberal, gun control liberal who comes out now and says, the Amir Locke case is wrong, I'll be like, I don't know. You think people should be allowed to have guns? Aren't you on the side of the cops? Don't you think only the police should have guns? It's so backwards. The liberals come out and scream Black Lives Matter over this, but they're the ones who want to take guns away. The conservatives, many of them, defend the police when they were the ones who just killed a guy who legally was holding a gun. I got really pissed off. There was that dude. I can't remember his name. Maybe it was Philando Castile, was it? I'm not sure. He was in a car. He had a gun, and a cop shot and killed him. He told the cop he had his gun. Now, there's some questions about there. To be fair to many of the conservatives, they said the dude was smoking pot. And that's a question about driving under the influence and being armed. But still, I don't think the cop should have shot the guy. I think cops should have a right to defend themselves. But I think everyone should. I don't think cops should be special. Cops are enforcers of the law. And I think everybody should be armed. And I think an armed society is a polite society. I think if you don't like the fact that we have guns, change the Constitution through an amendment. But they can't do it because even many liberals like guns. It's a force balancer. Joe Biden is a horrifyingly evil man. Black Lives Matter, in my opinion, is a horrifyingly evil organization. All of these groups that want to seize your guns, as soon as they take your guns, they will beat the ever-living out of you. They will put you on the ground. They will bash your face in with their boot on your neck. I think about bullies in schools, right? Is the bully going to pick on the 6-foot-tall kid? The kid with the massive growth spurt? Of course not. He'll get his ass handed to him. They pick on the little guy. They pick on the people they think won't fight back. I think about women who are victimized by men. Men tend to be the perpetrators of violent crimes on women. You know what I want? You know what I want to see? I want to see that rapist in the dark alley with his disgusting twisted expression walking towards the woman going, yeah, and then she chuckles and pulls out her revolver and says, back the off. And he goes, oh, oh, and he runs away. I want that woman to have the same amount of power as that guy who would try to cause harm to her. I want to see these evil men and women who try to harm and destroy. And let's be real. It's typically men who engage in violent crime, and typically against men, mind you. But against women, it is typically men who commit violent crimes against women. I want to see those who could not defend themselves with their fists because maybe they're too small, maybe they're disabled, maybe they've got a debilitating disease. Look into the eye of those evil people and say, you have crossed the line and your life is forfeit. You've made this decision. I don't want to see anybody hurt. That's why I prefer it if these evil people simply run and are apprehended. It's why I'm against the death penalty. But I'll tell you this. You know, people say to me, when it comes to the death penalty, they're like, what if there's someone who like harmed kids and all that stuff? And I'm like, yo, if we've locked them in a box and it's sealed away, we don't got to do anything. They're not a threat anymore. And I will not allow the state the right to kill someone even if there's a 0.1% chance this person is innocent. Benjamin Franklin, playing on Blackstone's formulation, said it's better that 100 guilty persons escape than one innocent person suffer. And I agree. And people say, yeah, but then innocent people are victimized by them. And I say, get a gun. Don't be a victim. I would rather no one get hurt. But if the state has seized control of an individual and they can't harm anybody, I see no reason to kill them. Why? Well, as much as emotionally I want retribution for those who commit crimes, if I don't witness the crime happening, and then I'm not going to trust the state to take someone's life. Imagine, just be the person. Be the person looking at Kamala Harris when she was, prosecutor or whatever, or the attorney. What was she? When she was, I think she was she a prosecutor or what was she, attorney general or something? I want you to be that person. And Kamala Harris walks up to you and says, "You see that guy right there? He's an evil murderer, so I'm going to kill him, okay?" And then you go, "Okay, Kamala, I trust you. I think you're telling me the truth." Yo, she kept people in prison with denying them parole to use them as slaves to fight wildfires. You think I'm going to trust her when she comes out and says this man deserves to die? I'm going to laugh in her face and say, "Get the out of my face, you crackpot despot. You got the guy locked in a box, and if he's innocent, that's bad enough. But at the very least, we can not kill him." So I tell you this, man. If we end up releasing these awful, awful people, because our court systems are very adversarial and we defend the rights of the innocent, and it turns out he was actually an evil murderer, and we let him go. If everybody were armed, this guy would go, "I'm going to victimize you, ma'am." And she goes, "Oh, please," and pulls out her gun and says, "Back off." And he goes, "Oh, no." Now, there's still gangs, there's still violence. Bad guys still get guns too. But regular people should have a right to defend themselves. And you know what this means? It means accidents can happen. But accidents are accidents. They're unfortunate. I wish they wouldn't happen. But I will not allow intentional evil to persist. These officers killed a guy. He did nothing wrong as far as we can tell for now. The body camera video shows the dude was just sleeping and they killed him. You can't trust the state. You trust Joe Biden. He's going to come to you and be like, "We got to kill this guy." I'm like, first of all, dude, not only do I not trust you, but I also think your brain is so busted that even if you did have evidence, I still don't believe you because your brain don't work. Therein lies the big challenges of trying to balance freedom and liberty with people who would commit crimes. It's tough. It really is. I think the right to keep and bear arms is a right everyone should have. And you know what? Sometimes bad people do bad things. Sometimes you see videos. There was that video of a guy in his car and he pulls out his gun and he fires at other cars. I'm like, yeah, people do bad things. It's rough. But with life comes risk. And I live in an area where people have guns all over the place. I've not been shot. In fact, nobody has. Isn't that weird? These liberal people think that if everybody had a gun, they'd be going around just randomly shooting people. Yeah, go to Chicago. All right. Chicago's got gang problems. My opinion, if everybody was armed, there would be less shootings. In a lot of ways. I do think it's fair to say that there would be more accidents. But you know what? I would rather live with risky freedom than authoritarian security. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast, a different channel from this one. And I'll see you all then.